my view is the true Web3 of the future. It's going to be one where people don't realize they're even in Web3. It's going to be seamless.
What's up, world, and welcome to another episode of the Super Investors Show, where investors like you come here to learn from the mistakes of investors who are smarter and wealthier, because it's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's better to learn from others. And who else better than someone who is self-funding their own business during a bear market? And I don't want to get the time frame wrong, but I believe he built the company within a couple of weeks. This man right here, Charlie, is another Brit. So get used to the accent. And I would consider him not just someone I look up to, but someone who is now becoming a true friend of mine. So Charlie, I can't wait to bring you up, because I know the XRP community especially is excited to hear from you. So please welcome up on stage, Charlie Wooding.
Hello, everyone. And once again, Jordan, thank you for having me today.
It's my pleasure. And now I know you've been busy on like a virtual interview tour. So thank you for stopping by on our show. Charlie, for the people who don't know who you are, and I know the XRP community, it's big, it's loyal. How would you define Charlie?
I'm a very long-term member of the XRP community. I've been here lurking since 2016, and I've been throughout this whole journey. We've witnessed the SEC lawsuit, but I'm still here. So yeah, that's how I view myself.
Now, that background, 2016, yeah, you've seen it all. You've got a few scars. But it hasn't deterred you one bit. In fact, of recent, you've now built something on the XRP ledger. What is that, Charlie?
Yeah, so in November of this year, I exited a large XRP marketplace focusing on NFTs. I had the vision at the time, we need to do something more around the royalty side of NFTs. I thought it was a very exciting concept which hadn't been explored in detail. So I founded NFTempo, and we're building a royalties exchange on the XRPL to allow fractionalized royalties from musicians to be sold directly to their fans and investors, which is a completely new asset class, but we believe it is a way to democratize the music space as a whole.
Wow. Perfectly put, perfectly put. Of course, there's a lot to unpack, and I know you've been doing some incredible work where people can go learn more. Where exactly can people get involved and learn more about NFTempo?
Yes, we've got a lot of information, including our light paper on our website. That's at nftempo.io for our Twitter, and nftempo.io for our website. We're going to be promoting a lot of educational content as well throughout this year, so that'll be found on our Discord, and we are going to be adding a lot of articles to our website as well. So 2023 is going to be the year of learning for our community.
Brilliant, brilliant. And one last question on NFTempo before, of course, we delve into you as an individual. What would you say is the biggest problem that NFTempo is solving, if not now, that you're aspiring to solve?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest problems in music right now is the lack of options regarding music finance. I view it in the same way as companies have the options to do seed rounds, self-fund. In music, you've got essentially one of two options. You can either stay independent and manage your entire work yourself and keep your catalog, or sell to a record label, give away 85, 95% of your revenue, and hopefully blow up enough that small 5 to 15% can actually pay the bills. So it's those problems there, which is what our sort of core challenges for our sort of pain points. And by solving them, we make a music space which is a lot more fair for the artist.
It's a pain which not everyone's your audience, right? And that's something which is okay, because ultimately at the end of the day, I don't know that pain, right? Unless I do start a music career. So it's fascinating, Charlie, that you are taking, the average crypto investor who probably isn't a musician, and you're actually probably targeting an audience who don't know much about crypto, but that's okay. Would you say that's spot on?
Yeah, absolutely. I view it in the ways, service providers often target non-technical minded people. The product doesn't need to be technology. It needs to be a service, which is what we're providing. We just happen to use blockchains. It's more efficient. So my view is the true Web3 of the future. It's going to be one where people don't realize they're even in Web3. It's going to be seamless.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to have to steal that one. The future is you don't even realize you're in that. Whilst we've got you, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about NFTempo, but this show's all about understanding the investor and who is that human behind that super investor. So we always start with this question, which is, what would you say is your superpower as a super investor, Charlie?
I think my superpower has probably just been resourceful. When I was founding the company, I was going through all the various channels of how do we do the paperwork, and I thought, what, I'm not spending that money. I'll do it myself. And I don't think anyone else in this space is probably sad enough to bother doing companies' house filings on their own. But here we are. I did it, and the resourcefulness extends a lot further. And that's got the company to where it is. Not the biggest budget. We're not lobbing billions at the project right now, but no small bit of money on my side, and we're making it work. We're building from it, and I think everyone in this space should learn key lessons on resourceful management, and I think it's fantastic for projects to embrace that nature, especially in bear markets as well.
I couldn't agree more. And the problem which I know many people at home will be facing is like, hey, look, I don't have the capital, I don't have the resources, e.g. the team, the know-how to start a business. So I'm just going to sit on the sidelines as an investor, which, by the way, is okay. But for the group of people who are watching that do want to create their own project, who will have similar objections that you've probably had yourself, right? Is I don't have the know-how. Could you give us maybe 3 of the most powerful things you did that you can sit here now and say you're resourceful?
Yeah, I think in terms of, breaking into that startup space, or even, starting your own company, my single biggest sort of move towards that was joining a startup. When you can see how things are run on the ground, how do you save money here? What's, a way of optimizing that? That is a fantastic lesson. When you learn on the ground from doing, I think that's a lot better than, watching a few videos, tutorials. Get out there, build a company with people, even if you're playing, if your role's a very small sort of overall cog in the big wheel, it's fascinating, and you will learn a lot very, very quickly.
I know I asked for free, but that was a gem. Now, the cynic in me is, so you're just joining a startup to get as much as you want and get out. I know that's probably not the message. Maybe it is, but what mindset should people have going into joining a startup if they do want to start their own business?
I think if you're going into a startup to basically with the mindset of one day starting your business, the one thing you should do is think, how can I add value to this company? If you can add value and provide real lasting value for that company, when you're going to start your own company, it'll work. If you're just there for the money, the minute you go to your own business, it's not going to go well. So always look to add value, always look to try to help out, and be prepared to work insane amounts at times. You'll get crunch periods. There's not enough staff. You've got to do the role of 10 people sometimes. So you've got to be prepared for that as well. So it's a combination of willpower, resourcefulness, and that long-term vision of, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and in 10 years down the line, you can look back and think, oh yeah, I built that, and that's very, very powerful.
You're probably the first person, and I come from an entrepreneur background, you're the first person that I've heard say, hey, if you want to start your own business, go work for someone else. Because also, entrepreneurship, it says, jobs are bad. And I recently put out a post, which was inspired by another great channel, whereas having a job is bad if you don't want a job. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely agree with that sentiment. But I think, there's a lot in the entrepreneur space where I think sometimes there is the middle ground to it. I think if your life is building up to setting up, for a job, a lot of people go to uni with the mindset of, I will get a nice job at the end of it. I think there's risk there. But I think, if you're on the opposite way, which is my entire life goal is to work for myself, start my own business. If that fails, you're in trouble. So I think sometimes a bit of a hybrid can be the smartest idea. I've got my compliance officer hat on. I'm trying to mitigate risks here, so that might be swaying my views on that.
Someone needs to, Charlie. And there's another great saying, not from myself, which tags onto what you were saying, which was work your 9 to 5, and then from 7 to 12, work on your side hustle, right? So that your side hustle can become your 9 to 5. And that hybrid model takes grit. But it's almost what this show is all about, right? Learn from someone else's mistakes. Go work for a company where You would like to emulate their success. Do you want to share what marketplace you were working at? I don't know if you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined on XRP. I think I formally joined in, I think it was June or July of 2022, and left around late November to start my own company.
Fantastic. And if anyone's not familiar with Onyx His marketplace, also co-creators of the X Punks. And I feel like they have something else as well. They're working on
they've got the partnership with OnAvax, which was the Avalanche marketplace for DeFi, which again, hats off to Kai, hats off to Lee and Alan. Fantastic team all around.
They really are. And that speaks testament to you practice what you preach, right? You joined them, you added tremendous value. And that's why I didn't know how you left it. That's why I was like, you happy to speak about it? Obviously, left it on good terms.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a mutual split. It was more around I had this vision. It was obviously not what Onyx RP was destined to go on to do. So I think the smartest course of action in my case there was an amicable split, which was on brilliant terms. Kai was fine with it, and it's that one where we look to basically have mutual value from our projects in the future as well.
I love that. And that's where I said to you offline, like, this is one of the three purposes of this show, is that I can look back and say, yeah, look, I was interviewing Kai, I interviewed Charlie, and now look, they are working together. And Charlie even spoke it into existence that one day they will come back together with that synergy. And hopefully for people at home who are lucky enough to watch this in real time, they're witnessing that journey in real time. So thanks for sharing that, Charlie.
Absolutely.
So we covered number one, which was, okay, someone at home, they don't know where to start becoming resourceful. You recommend go join a startup, learn from their mistakes and successes so you can take it home. What would number two be?
I'd say number two is, if you are, looking to go down the route of investing, trading, use limited bag sizes. Don't lob the farm on something. Have a small pool and set yourself a few targets. Say I want to go for a 10%, per quarter or per year. Doesn't have to be in a big portion. Could be 1,000 XRP, could be 100 XRP. But if you have those little goals, small amounts, and can prove your strategy works from the investing or trading side, I think that can be a very powerful, very, very powerful tool to to assess strategy and compound rewards without having to commit large amounts of capital. So I'd say work with what you've got. That's always the best approach in my mind.
That work with what you got is easier than, of course, practice, because it is hard, because we are looking at, oh, that person's bag's bigger. What would you say to someone who is in that constant comparison mode of, oh, I just want more, I want more?
Yeah, I think, well, I always go back to when I was basically doing oil trading, because I got a bit bored during the pandemic. And, I was trying to assess how my strategy could possibly work when hedge funds are lobbing millions at the market.
Yeah.
And having a very small trading bag, it was only a few thousand at the time, was so insignificant, no hedge fund would even care about it. They wouldn't bother front running those orders. So I was able to get good order placement and benefited massively off the oil contango. So sometimes when you're a little bit smaller, it can actually be quite a nice blessing in the markets these days.
So true. And I can speak from experience that, especially if you work for a small startup, you can make a lot of mistakes. Because why? Hardly anyone's going to see them. And I come from a marketing background, and I've managed big accounts, and I've made mistakes, and those mistakes are amplified. And so it goes to what you just said. Actually flying under the radar, sharpening your axe, it's going to prepare you for when you do have 100,000s, millions, where the mistakes are a lot bigger at that scale.
Well, this is it. And I think, I've always been quite a goal-orientated person. So I've always, worked off, or if I've made 10% this year off my investments, I'm happy. Doesn't matter how much I've got, as long as the percents work. That's, I think, the real value when it comes to investing anyways. Because again, it doesn't have to be a big amount, but if you keep getting consistent returns, sit on those compounds, you'll do all right.
I love that. And I'm not scared to say that's good financial advice. That is sound and solid. And finally, Charlie, what would you say would be, excuse the dogs. I'm a full-time
no worries.
What would you say is the final tip for anyone who wants to become resourceful?
I'd say be prepared to learn a lot very quickly. When I was getting into the investment world very quick, I had to essentially learn the entire forex market because I wouldn't say I lied on the CV, but I was optimistic. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I had to basically learn the forex market overnight and account management strategies for a sort of Bollinger Band weird AI trading firm. So yeah, learn a lot very quick. If you are wanting to achieve something of massive importance to your life, go out and learn as much as you possibly can. If you're spending your entire weekend on something to the extent people think you're a bit weird, that's when you're doing well. That's my opinion on it.
Could not agree more. The ability to learn anything faster is something I pride myself on. I used to have that imposter syndrome where I would speak to other investors, for example, and they say, I've been in the game almost like you just said, 2016. And I haven't been in it this long. I need to be in it this long to learn this much. And then what I realized when I used to have conversations with them, only being in it for a year, and I'm coming up to, I think, my 4th year anniversary, which is exciting. I was amazed that they didn't know things I knew, and it only took me a year. And as I started to have more conversations, I started to realize that it's actually quite a negative when people say, I've been here for a long time, but it's taken me a year to know what you know. You've been here for 5 years, and I wear that now with a badge of honor, that you shouldn't be proud that you've been in it for ages and you've got the same results as someone who's been here for 6 months. So really do take it with pride that you are able to see massive results, acquire massive amounts of knowledge in a short period of time. Of course, I think we both agree you can't trade that sweat equity, though, just being in the game over time as well. Would you agree, disagree?
Absolutely. I think the knowledge base is, the time to acquire knowledge is probably the biggest skill someone can learn. If they can learn, what someone's, it might take someone 3 years to learn something fair on them. Someone could come along and learn that in 3-6 months. That's talent. But obviously the sweat equity is something which, I don't think you can ever overlook as well, especially in the XRP space. If you manage to see the entire Securities and Exchange Commission rain down upon the space and think, I'm not going anywhere because I understand the technology. That's a different level, and that just comes from time, I think, as well. So time's a very strong aspect. Sweat equity obviously is never going to go away, but knowledge is now more accessible than ever before, and I think people need to take advantage of that in order to, get a lot more out of their sweat equity. Basically, simple as that.
You're so right, because biasly, I'm a ex-speed reader and memory coach. I say ex, it's still in me. But that was my true passion, was teaching people how to learn anything faster. And I also attribute a lot of my success in the investing space thanks to my speed reading and memory ability. So I recommend, this is a plug. Hey, people, go learn speed reading, go learn memory training. It sounds super geeky, but improving your ability to learn anything faster, it's going to translate across all fields. And I know, Charlie, you found some people who do have that superpower of learning anything faster. And it's a lovely segue into your weakness. So, of course, you've achieved so much in a very short career time. And I won't say how old you are. I'll let you share that when you're ready. But you're a young man, and you do have a weakness. And what would you say that weakness is?
Yeah, I'd say my weakness, especially in the Web3 space, is I'm not technical. I'm probably the worst at code. I think my knowledge base stops at, kiddie scripts. That's about it, really. But yeah, so I'd say the biggest sort of weakness in the Web3 space for me is my lack of coding. And the way I've sort of had to address that is by obviously finding a good team, finding technically minded people and, building upon that. So it's it's a very, very powerful thing in, I think, the Web3 space anyway. If you can get that team together and address your weaknesses overall, I overlap on some of Niall's skill sets. Cleo overlaps on some of mine. I'm massively dyslexic, so having essentially a proofreader, editor, and content creator is always, a massive, powerful tool to have. So, building a team, I think, is sometimes the best way because everyone's got their own unique view. And I think when you're, talking about trading before, I think there's no such thing as the perfect investor. Everyone's very good at their own little market segment. I was good at oil. I could not go anywhere near the micro stocks. And, if you put that together, you get a trading firm. So in the company's sense as well, if you get all those little talents, lob it all together, that's how you build something of real value.
the question which I know a lot of people will be thinking, which is, yeah, I know I need to build a team, and they've probably got their dream team drawn up, right? How do you approach people, mainly when you don't have that financial backing, right? Can you give us examples? Maybe you haven't got a personal example, but what would you do, Charlie, if you couldn't afford to pay a team member? How would you incentivize them to buy into your vision?
Yeah, and I think it's it comes back to I think one of the main sort of problems with startups, which is sometimes that chicken and egg, which is you can't give away too much equity to build a business, but sometimes you need to raise financing to grow that equity in the first place. So obviously that's where the upfront capital commitment can come from there. So there's always going to be a little bit of give and take on that side, but I think the main thing is if you're producing something of true value, where even your team can think, yeah, in 10 years that's still going to be here. That's when you can start solving that equity and financing problem.
Equity. There'll be some people who've never heard of equity, and I used to get it confused with stocks and shares, right? That I used to hear my friends say they've got Apple shares, right? And of course, there was a difference. It's like, no, you got Apple stock. And it's not the same as equity, right? And shares, again, depends on what type of shares. Financial advice, of course, we know it's not financial advice. We have to get that out of the way. But what's kind of your rule of thumb in terms of giving away equity? And if I kind of load it up as a prime, you don't give anyway more than 50%.
Yeah, I mean, it's one for, again, I skipped out the Preseed Fund for the simple reason I got approached by a few investors. The terms weren't favourable. And, my strategy from there is, well, my equity is it's my company at the end of the day. So why would I want to give it away on non-favourable terms? My policy to equity is, I'm clinging on to it for dear life. And I'm probably the only one mad enough to get essentially $250,000 investment round where someone's saying, oh, look, I'll give you money. I'm like, no, you're asking for too much equity. Piss off, get out. So it's the long-term strategy, but I think if you've got that vision of where you want the company to go, that equity, that's your voting rights, that's your company. Don't sacrifice it just for the short term, basically.
And I know in, of course, crypto and the Web3 space is we're in a unique position where we don't have to give away equity. We can legally, for now, give away a token distribution supply, can't we? We can allocate a supply of a token to team members. Is that something you're happy to share publicly here? And if not, can you talk about other companies that have done a model like that?
Yeah, happy to share our side. So we've got our native token, which is IDOing on the 26th of January at 5 o'clock.
IDO means?
It's our initial DEX offering. So think ICO, but a lot more regulatory compliance and a lot better, basically. It's a lot fairer. We're IDOing on the 26th of January at 5 o'clock GMT. And overall, we've got 10% of our tokens are held by the core team. No one owns more than 50% of that. And obviously, when we bring more members onto the core team, that dilutes even further. So I think we're currently like 37.5% for myself, Cleo, and we've got a few of the other ones in there as well. So it's that one where we believe in having a small overall percentage, enough where obviously we've got a little bit of reward from our side, but nothing where it's like we can just crash the price by selling all at once. And obviously we solve a number of issues by having that on a lockup. So that's over 12 months. And after that, it's a 24-month linear release schedule. So it's going to be a very long process to get those tokens out.
I know one of my favorite companies, Hedera Hashgraph, they have something very similar where the founder tokens, I think, only started to release last year. And they've been building now for, I think, 5 years. So they had, like a 3-year gap before any founder tokens started being released. And even then, they were vested periods. So that's really refreshing to hear you're following a similar model because at the end of the day, humans are greedy, right? And I'm not saying you are, Charlie, but, then that temptation's there. And also from the community side, they don't have to just trust Charlie. And that's the beautiful thing about blockchain. You trust the numbers. You trust the protocol. So kudos to you for putting that in place.
Thank you.
I really mean that. And that token distribution, would you say supplements that equity giveaway?
It does. It does in a way, yeah. And it's one of these as well, which it allows us to do. I'd say, I phrase it as community seeding. So, the Web3 music space is currently in a very, very early stage. So, by producing our own token, getting that to market, we can actually offer that as a reward and incentive for the musician as well. We've got at NFTempo, we've got a chart program. So, if you're the fastest growing artist of the month, we'll pay you $1,000 in XFT. And then the hottest artists, the ones who are gaining that little bit of exposure, $500, and for the highest earning, we'll pay them $250. So we are basically providing almost like a mini community grants program involved with the platform. So tokenomics allow us to hybrid the equity model a little bit nicely. It allows us to insulate the sort of core team from the equity side, and also provide more liquid sort of cashing out down the line. Obviously, that's all transparent for the community aspect as well, and it allows us to reward the community members as well, as in combination with our airdrops and all the incentives like our reward pools. So overall, I think the tokenomics can be a very, very powerful set of tools for the market.
I think it is, and I've seen it work. I missed the ICO craze in 2017. Annoyingly, a lot of money was made then, but like you said, it's now evolved. It's now progressed to an IDO. And for anyone at home who's sold on that idea, like that, yes, you know what, Charlie, you've spoken sense to me that I want to start my own project. Creating a token is going to be the best way to raise capital for us, and also bringing people on board. What would you say is one of the biggest things they should be careful and to watch out for? Because anyone can create a token now.
Absolutely. I think, from my side, obviously KYC AML is a massive hurdle. We've got MICA, which is the European Union set of laws. We've got our crypto framework in the UK, both coming into play this year. And, they're very, very strict when it comes to KYC, know your customer checks, anti-money laundering, and the combat of financial terrorism. And those things, I've not sort of forgot about. My roots in blockchain are in compliance, and it's something I still hold quite a large focus on. And I think there's a number of projects out there, for whatever reason, have sort of skimped on those aspects, and I think it's very damaging in the long term. And with a new set of regulations coming into play, I do think a number of companies will face the challenges of taking the shortcuts sometimes. So I'd fully suspect in the next year or two, we will see some companies run into headaches there. So I'd say in terms of hurdles, keep an eye on the regulations and always use a bit of common sense as well.
It's the stuff that no one really wants to hear, right? Eat your vegetables, but at the end of the day, the vegetables will keep you healthy, keep you out of jail.
Well, that's it. And it's one of these which is, I think there's a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, but I'd say over-optimism in the crypto world. I think sometimes we all need a bit of a reality check, which is, we're not exempt from the laws. We're still not allowed to finance terrorists or money launder. So, let's follow those rules as well.
You're not wrong. And it's one of those things where I remember having these conversations with people about tax. It's boring to do right now. You may think they'll never catch up to you, but when you're looking at a phone number on your screen, because now your portfolio has grown tremendously, there will be a lot of eyeballs on you in whatever jurisdiction, and they can go back. You'll correct me, in the UK, is it 5-7 years they can go back in terms of filing?
Yes, it's there's also exemptions, so they can go back even further when it comes to financial crime as well. So you have to be quite careful there.
So it is sadly, it's a reality check for everyone watching that although right now you've probably got away with it for a couple of years, right? And you may think, and you probably will get away with it for a couple more years, but as soon as you start flagging up your accounts, because now you're moving large amounts of money, you're going to have new eyeballs on you. And you've got to make sure that what you've done today is sound. So if there is any financial advice, I think that's safe to say we can give that, which is please follow regulations. Final question before I throw it back to you for everyone to remember, which is, we've now sold people on how important it is about regulations. If they don't feel competent or confident of learning themselves, where could they go to?
I think YouTube can actually be a fantastic place for this as well. And, we've got an excellent bunch of XRP-centric lawyers. We've got John Deaton, who's been absolutely remarkable with the Amici briefing. We've got, obviously, Jeremy Hogan as well. So anyone who wants to learn the very sort of basics of, court case and how things are progressing there, That's absolutely fantastic. And if you've got the time, read through the MICA framework. The European Union does publish basically sort of shortened briefs of it, so you can skim read through this and think, all right, I know what this means. That's a KYC policy that's targeted at stable coins, and over time you can start placing it together. So I'd say a lot of it can just come down from, if you don't want to do that, I'm dyslexic, I don't bother sometimes. I'll watch a YouTube somebody on it, and if I've got a spare 4 years, go and read the documents. So it's but I think there's a lot of useful tools out there to understanding the frameworks, and again, learn the legal system. It's always a very, very useful tool to have.
It's just another language, just like Web3, crypto, blockchain, right?
Well, that's it, absolutely. And might not be the most exciting, but it's extremely useful to have, and especially within the crypto space, it can be one of the most valuable tools down the line.
Certainly. Look, Charlie, you have delivered an immense amount of value on this one show. And I know, like I say, super appreciative because you've been back to back to back to back, and you've only got your head of marketing to blame for that. One last thing I want to squeeze out of you. One last thing for the audience to remember.
Yeah, I'd say one last thing for 2023 is I think this is the year of education for the Web3 market. I think we've seen a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence for the future. We're here, we've got NFTs, and we're now in the stage of, okay, the technology class exists. How do we bring these to market? And I'd say one of the best sort of ways of looking at this is, how easy is it to access the internet and, buy services? Amazon's a perfect example. It's seamless. So we're trying to build that for Web3 at NFTempo. And we won't be happy until Web3 is as seamless as buying something on Amazon. So I think Web3 in 2023 is going to be the year of positive change for the entire industry.
That prediction I will hold you to, Charlie. I'm sure you happily would be, and I'm also with you on that. It goes without saying, thank you for your time, as I know when you are building at any stage, time is precious. So thank you for wasting it with me today.
Been a pleasure. All the best.
Thank you, Charlie. And it goes without saying, everyone, if you've reached this far within the show, please subscribe. It will support the show massively. It helps us get bigger guests on. And straight after Charlie's show, we have now booked up all the way to March with some incredible names now reaching out to the NBA. So keep your eyes peeled. Charlie, you are welcome back on the show whenever you know that.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure today. Absolutely love speaking.
Thank you. Ciao for now, everyone at home.
Bye-bye now.